I should say, for those of you who don't know me, I'm John Humphreys and I'm the chaplain at Ravenswood, and I come to a range of services here, depending how I feel, I guess, and whether my kids are coming, etc. Today we're going to spin off from what Phil was talking about, so Phil can do his sermon that he had. And I want to think about suffering, but still this idea of abiding in God. Because, let's face it, we've had a fair bit of it this year. And there's this idea here that he will give you whatever you ask for in my name. But yet we still suffer. A lot of us pray. And so I want to tackle that today. So, why is there suffering? Have a quick chat with people around you. 30 seconds, one sentence answer. Why is there suffering? Or 2 sentences, 3 sentences. Just a quick one. If you don't know, introduce yourself. Cool, that's enough of that. Why is there suffering? Anyone want to stick their hand up and do the school thing? Brings you back to earth, okay. Bill?
Because our world is essentially broken.
Our world's broken. Yeah.
Life's like everything else in the world is in cycles.
World's in cycles.
Cool. You have some depths, you have some waves.
Awesome. I thought we've, of course, skipped the main question that helps us answer this question, which is what is suffering? So those at Ravenswood know these are my favourite things. These are definition videos from YouTube. So get ready, hold on to your hats. Here it is.
Suffering. Experiencing pain. Suffering.
Then she usually says the word, but she's pronouncing this time. Anyway, so suffering. It's not what you thought it was. It's always good to go back to words because the definition, at least in the dictionary, is the state of undergoing pain, distress, or hardship. Which means that suffering is in our heads. It's a state that we feel. It's an affect rather than a thing. It's our response to things that happen in the world. That doesn't mean that suffering's not real. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that. But it's not a thing. Those people aren't having suffering forced upon them. They're experiencing suffering as a result of something. And if you're not sure of that, I went to the good source of Jesus in the Bible, and so here's some ideas. There was a big tower way back, ancient times. It fell over and it killed 18 people. And Jesus said, were they more guilty than anyone else? So clearly they didn't suffer because they did something wrong. And sometimes we get that, you hear these wacky things. When the tsunami went through about 10 years ago, people said, well, that's the sinful people getting whacked by God. And it's like, well, Jesus saying no. But you still need to repent like they do. There was some present at that time who told Jesus about the Galileans whose blood Pilate had spilled mixed with their sacrifice. How? It's one, we probably don't get temple worship where literally the priests took animals, spliced their throats open, and the blood spilled across the altar, on the altar and spilled down and into the fire pit, and there was the smell of God, or this wafting smell to God. But to make it worse, Pilate actually killed the priests on the altar and spilled their blood there too. So it wasn't just the shock of the priest being killed, but the defilement of the temple as well. So, do you think they were any worse than any other Galileans? No. because they suffered in this way? No. And there was a Sabbath and Jesus was teaching in one of the synagogues, and a woman who had been crippled by a spirit for 18 years, and she was bent over and she couldn't straighten up at all, and Jesus saw her, he called her forward and said to her, "Woman, you're set free from your infirmity." Then he put his hands on her, and immediately she straightened up and praised God. But the synagogue leader wasn't particularly happy about that. There are 6 days for work. Come and be healed on those days. Didn't say that to Jesus, of course, he said it to the woman. But Jesus heard him and said, "You hypocrites, don't you untie an ox and give it water when it's thirsty on the Sabbath? Should not this woman, daughter of Abraham, been staying in this debt bound for 18 years, be set free on the Sabbath?" So, why is there suffering? Well, stuff happens. Cancer. Just happens, you know. Yeah, there might be causes, but sometimes it just happens. It's mutation of a gene causes a cell to get out of control. That just happens. People in the wrong place at a bad time when stuff happens. So, like the tower falling down. The tower fell down, bad, we lost the tower. Falls on 18 people, suffering happens. No tower, no suffering. Bushfires. They just burn through the bush. Maybe some animals suffer. We don't suffer. But if they burn through and people get killed, suffering happens. It's the tree falling in the forest. Does anyone hear it? That sort of thing. The same as with suffering. So when bad stuff happens and affects us, it's like those people who went to White Island on the boat for a tour just before Christmas. And then they got back on the boat thinking that was a fabulous time. And then the next group got off, and they had a fabulous time, and the next group off, and the whole thing blew up. And they were suffering. And the poor family at Knox was wiped out among others. And there's still suffering happening because of that event. No one was essentially to blame. They didn't do anything wrong. Some people you might be like, should you walk a volcano, etc. But the same thing, it's like, should you build your house in a bush? Should you build your house where there's a river? These things just happen. It's not God making them happen. They happen. And when they happen and they affect us, then suffering happens. And of course, like the pilot incident, people do bad stuff to other people, and that causes suffering. But the one thing that no one mentioned yet, and Jesus pointed out, is that when we don't do stuff to help, then suffering continues. So, doesn't cause the suffering in that it's not the event, but it causes suffering in the sense that people experience that in the result of an event. So what can we do about it? Because there is suffering in the world. And the other week, I did this with the kids. You might remember that. Have you ever felt like this? Yes. Who helped? That's not a rhetorical question. Who helped you when you felt like that? Parents, if you were little. Friends. Hopefully the church community. Doctors, etc. How did they help? And this is the key. They didn't take the pain away. When you go to your mum when you're little and you scrape your knee, they can't take the pain away. They can't make it magically better. Doctors, when they go to you, they'll go through therapy and stuff, but they can't usually make you magically better. Maybe they can give you pain relief for a while, but they can't take the pain away in itself. And the same with God. God doesn't magically, in most instances, I believe in miracles, but God doesn't magically make the pain go away. But there's something about having the presence of other people with us that helps us get through that pain. We get through the suffering. because they can't make the pain go away. When you lose someone and you're in grief, that pain stays with you for life. It doesn't magically go away. But people around you give you comfort and support, and you get through that time. So, on the first year at, well, it might have been my second year. When did Dad die? 2009, 2010. It's a while ago. First or second year at Ravenswood, we moved house, we moved jobs, we moved schools. The kids got kicked out of pinball, moved to a different school. It wasn't the best year to start off with. Lots of change. They say do one change. We seem to change everything. And then we were with my dad at the long weekend in June. We could tell he was a bit off. He'd had some cancer before. We could tell he wasn't well. By July, he was diagnosed with cancer. By the 22nd of August, he died. But how do you get through that? Like, do you survive it? And often when we say surviving through suffering, it's like you just get through, you know? How are you doing? This is survival time for teachers. Halfway through the term. How are you doing? It's survival week, I'm getting there. Especially if you've been on camp for a week like I have. But look at the word. French and Latin, sur or super, and viving or vivere, however you want to say it, is life. Super living. So there should be more to life than just sailing by. And Quibi read that in the book of Habakkuk this today. This idea of getting through. Suffering doesn't go away. So I came up with this term, so thriving. See, when my dad was dying, I was sad. I prayed to God. And you might say, well, John, you're a pretty Christian and you've got really bad faith, and that's clearly why your prayers didn't work. But what about the churches that were praying for my dad and the faithful people that were praying? He didn't get better. He died. But I remember it was a really special time. The school, the principal said to me, John, if you need to be with your dad, go and be with your dad. And I remember I'd do my chapel, and then the next day I'd be in the car about 5 o'clock in the morning, driving up to tea gardens. I remember some beautiful sunrises. I remember seeing the trees around me and appreciating the beauty. I remember there was a song on the radio by Kate Miller-Heidke, and that was encouraging. And I had an amazing time with my dad. We had conversations that we didn't necessarily have before. And we just spent time together. And in the end, we were there. Did he die peacefully? No. He was at home. In fact, he was gurgling away, he was interrupting the show that we were watching. So we can laugh about it. And eventually that morning he died. You know, and I was in such a space that when I went to the shops that morning because we needed some stuff, and the woman asked me, "How are you?" And I could see in my head, I could really have milked this one. Because they like, you know, my dad just died. But I was in a good frame of mind. Why? Because I had actually thrived in that time. Through my prayer and faith, I got through with God. Was I upset? Yes. Am I still sad? Yes. Did the pain go away? No. But I was able to get through it. So how do we deal with this idea that God is with us? Well, we do our prayer, and we love others, and we love each other, and we read the scriptures, but how we read it is important. With faith, hope, and love. Because you can read it and you can still think everything's bad. You know, you can take a pessimistic mindset. You can focus on the negatives. And this isn't about pretending that it's all good, but it's finding the resources that help you get through it. Don't know why that didn't work anyway. Oh, I lost the screen. There it goes back again. So when it talks about God asking in his name and and abiding in God. Remember, Jesus was talking, this passage is the prep for the crucifixion. We're in the season of Lent. We're getting ready for Easter. We're going through, we followed Jesus on the way of the cross. That is not a picnic. The Christian life isn't about all fluff and bubbles. It isn't about making your life better magically. Phil's in hospital and he's going through stuff. It's not magically going to get better. But he's waved at us this morning, and I think seeing us here, and I'll turn the camera around Phil later, and you can see everyone. Yeah, I'll do it now. Everyone wave at Phil. And the other people who are watching as well. Because they might be, I know Eric's sick as well. So, abide in his name isn't a magic word that makes everything better. Just because you say, God, heal me in Christ's name, it doesn't work like that. We've been going through the Psalms. We've heard the agonizing of the psalmists, and they write their stuff, but somehow connecting with God, there's always that flip. Either they will themselves into it through faith, but I will trust in God, or the act of being in prayer with God gives them the faith, the trust to get through. So when we love one another, we help each other through suffering. When we love God, we're helped in suffering. When we serve, even though things are hard, we still find meaning and purpose. We can survive. In fact, we can thrive. We actually have more than life than you would expect because we have God when we're in God. So may God be with us in hard times as well as the joyful times. May God bless us now and always. Amen.